This week's episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast is proudly brought to you by Southern Oak Kennels. Southern Oak Kennels specializes in importing, breeding, and training British Labrador Retrievers for the American wing shooter. Visit southernoakkennels.com to learn more about upcoming litters, available retrievers, and gun dog training. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 92. This week on the show, we welcome Addison Edmonds, founder of Gunner Kennels. Talk a little bit about how Gunner got its start and where the company's heading in the future. All right, welcome to the 92nd episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. Make sure you check us out at hpoutdoors.com. If you're new to the show, you can get caught up on all of our past episodes right there on our website. You can also head to any quality podcast catcher, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any of the great ones out there. You can find our show. You can also find us across all of the various social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Head over to our Facebook listeners group, join in a bunch of folks in there, and talk waterfowl hunting with myself, Josh Palm, and my co-host, Dan Harushka. Dan, what's up?
Not too much, my man. Closing in on hunting season.
No doubt. And as we close in, I want to take a minute to thank, as I've already mentioned, Addison and Gunner Kennels for their support of this week's episode. Engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind, the G1 Kennel has set a new industry standard and has put Gunner Kennels in a category all of its own. Gunner Kennels was started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything that they do. Gunner Kennels is dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market. Man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at www.gunnerkennels.com. Also like to take a moment to thank Dunn Sporting Goods. Dunn's a family-owned and operated business with 2 locations in Peevely, Missouri and Marion, Illinois. They have over 60 years dedicated to providing the outdoorsman with the best deals on hunting and fishing gear. Check out their selection at shopduns.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram at shopduns for weekly specials and giveaways. They've also created an HP Outdoors exclusive discount. Use the code HPO to save 10% on your purchase. Some restrictions apply. Also, like to thank Camp Chef, Black Rifle Coffee Company, Big Owl Silhouette Decoys, and 737 Duck and Goose Calls for their support of this week's show. Again, we've said it before and we'll say it again. We can't do what we do without the support of those companies. So please, if you're in the market for some waterfowl type equipment or gear, please consider those companies when making your purchase. If you do decide to consider any of those companies, check out the discount codes that we have. You can head over to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast website. Check out the discount codes page and see we've got 10% off at Dunn Sporting Goods, 15% off at Black Rifle Coffee Company, 10% off with White Rock Decoys, and we've also got a special discount with a custom HP Outdoors 737 Duck or Goose Call. So definitely check those out. All right, Dan, we got a good one this week, joined by Addison. And I think, this is one that I honestly, having recorded it already, it was one of those ones where I looked down and I was like, holy smokes, we're already an hour into this. And I couldn't believe kind of how quickly the time went, covering the material that we did with him.
Yeah, it was a very easy conversation. It was like sitting down with an old buddy and just chatting it up. So really cool how he got the start. And like I said during the interview, but man, some of these guys that just, they know what they want to do. They, just go straight on at it. And it really is inspiring to just see them drop whatever they had going or, just go in that one direction and be successful with it. So it's cool. It's inspiring, great conversation. And it's just a great product on top of that.
Yeah. And I think one of the interesting things about it, man, is it's, it's one of those things where it's a huge risk to take on your own deal. And he talks a little bit about that in the interview, but I think a lot of people are envious of the situation because it's like maybe you do a job that you don't love, or it's okay, but you wish you could do something else or whatever. But life happens, and you end up in a situation where you might not be able to make a choice, to do something different or whatever. You've got bills to pay and you've got family to take care of and things like that. And so many of these guys, have been able to balance that risk and be able to trudge forward. And whether it's, something they start early in life or something that they kind of get into a little bit later, it's definitely something that I'm envious of, because it's like, man, if I could, work full time in something that's closely tied to the outdoor waterfowl industry, I mean, that's the dream right there, and, to see these guys do it and have a chance to talk to them and kind of pick their brain, it's definitely a cool deal. And, I think it's something that's a neat opportunity for us to be able to bring to our listener base, particularly here in the off season when, we don't got a ton of hunting stories to share and all that kind of stuff. I will say that I'm also currently trying out a new microphone right now, so I'm interested to see how this sounds when we edit this up.
Yeah, besides the little cold you have going on, it sounds really good on my end. So
I'm like having to jack the volume down on my mic every 2 seconds because I'm sneezing and sniffling and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum. But
speaking of the off season, and we got hammered a little bit for not being baseball players and not talking about College World Series, but the All-Star game down in your neck of the woods, and Bryce Harper absolutely crushing in the home run derby. So that was cool to see. And
it's funny, I didn't let my son stay up for the whole thing, but I let him watch Bryce hit the first time, and then I DVR'd the rest of it. And when I woke him up this morning for summer camp, I asked him if he wanted me to tell him who won or if he wanted me to keep it a secret. He said, I'd like to be surprised, and when we were going to watch it tonight. So when I got home with him from camp, sat down on the couch and we watched it. And to see him watch Bryce, like, it took me back to when I was a kid, watching Ken Griffey Jr. and guys like that in the home run derby. And just as, like, when he won it and he came back and charged at the end and came and won it, the smile on my son's face, it was just priceless. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, as a professional baseball player or whatever, I'm sure he sees it all the time and hears it all the time. But like, to my son, like, he is a hero, I mean, he is like, he's it. And, it's just so cool. And it's hard because I've had to talk to my son about the potential of Bryce leaving town because he's a free agent this year and likely won't re-sign here because he's going to get a massive contract. But my son doesn't understand it at all. He's like, well, why would he want to go somewhere else? Like, he belongs here with, playing for our team and all this kind of stuff. And, it's just really interesting to see, but man, he was so happy to see, him win it in Nats Park. It was just, it was a really cool thing for me to just kind of share with him. And I told you, I looked into getting tickets and they were just, again, I like looked on StubHub or whatever, and they were just really expensive for where you were going to be. And, he's 7, so I don't want to have him out all night and all that stuff. But I kind of wish we would have went, but, we had a good time watching it at home anyway.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember watching Griffey and just a whole career. Everyone's, Griffey swing. You just emulate what those guys do, or at least try to, and pretend you're them. And yeah, I could see where that definitely takes you back to childhood.
Playing wiffle ball, I was Griffey, Bonds, everybody. I hit left-handed all the time. I imitated their swing, and yeah.
And then once you got on a diamond, you were straight McGuire, just free swinging, crushing homers. No, but hey, so I have a soccer dad update. My son now no longer dresses for the games, and he just sits on the sideline. So three was a little young for him, and he just doesn't have the desire to get out there. So that was a good experiment. But
he's retired already. He hung it up.
He retired. Yeah, he didn't even get out for. Yeah, didn't get out for any playing, no PT whatsoever. So, but I tell you what, I've been really surprised by my girls. it's a 4 or 5 year old league, and they are might have a couple little athletes on my hand. I'm really proud of what they've been doing, and I think Kelly's up to like, I don't know, she's at like 8 or 9 goals, and Sadie's up to like 4, I think. So it's
which one of them's the anti-hunter?
Kelly. Kelly's kind of she just has the feelings. Well, the problem is we can see deer from. She's not anti-waterfowl, but we can see deer from my house every night. So she names them, and
just you gotta explain it. Sit her down. Watch some Lion King
every time.
Have Mufasa talk about the circle of life. It'll be all good.
You want to know what's funny? Every time a deer jumps out in front of the trucks, and in front of my truck, I will like really emphasize the brakes and be like, that's why we have to control the population. Okay. And that's, just another time to get that in their mind. So, but yeah, we have a doe that she's been around a few years now, and she has like 3 or 4 white patches on her back. So, we call her Whitey, and she thinks that daddy's going to kill Whitey. And that's why you never name animals that you plan on eating.
Yep. That's unfortunate.
But it's all good. It's fun.
All right. Well, let's shift gears here, and let's get into this interview with Addison, and we'll roll this and circle back when we get wrapped up. So here he is, Addison Edmonds, founder of Gunner Kennels. All right. Joining us this week on the show is definitely someone from a company that you've heard us talk a lot about over the last several months, and we're excited to welcome him. It's Addison Edmonds, founder of Gunner Kennels. Addison, how's it going,
pretty
man?
Good. I'm down here in my shop trying to hide out with these 3 little kids, probably running rampant right now upstairs. So I kind of got to get out of putting them to bed. Duty to come down here and talk to y'all.
It's funny that you bring that up, because in our Facebook listeners group recently, one of the Dan asked a question to the group, what's something that you're worried about or that you fear for the upcoming season? And my response to it, my wife is getting ready to have a baby in January. So, that's going to definitely cut into the season for good reasons, obviously. But I think you and Dan can both relate to each other, where you all have a bunch of kids in a real compact young age. I've got 7 years between my first and what will be my second. How do you manage it all, man? I mean, you're running a business, you hunt, you spend time outdoors, you got, 3 kids demanding your time, a wife, all that kind of stuff. How do you manage it all?
You don't. Yeah, I mean, last year, so our 3-year-old, it was your first kid. Great. We launched our website within 24 hours of having our first child, Marie. About 3 months later, I ended up in the hospital with shingles from just working myself too hard. But I mean, after our second kid, I thought, man, I thought I was busy back then. Now I'm really busy. And then our last child was born in December, and that really cut into duck hunting, having an 8-month pregnant wife and 2 kids under 2 at that time. Where I think I had to pick my hunt pretty wisely. But no, it's just like anything else. You just juggle it up. I think I don't know. We're not really planning this whole thing out. So having 3 kids, trying to start our own company, and everything else, it's just another day,
Are the kids pretty good sleepers? I know when we had the twins, they were a little bit early, so they got the whole warm box treatment, and they were on a very, very good sleeping schedule. So that made it a little easier on us. But I'm sure if you have one that doesn't sleep as well, that could cause some havoc.
Yeah, we just moved the 3 and almost 2-year-old into the same room because we were running out of room in our house for the the 7-month-old is now is in another room, and they stay up all night just giggling. And it's 3 girls. We have 3 girls. So the 2 older girls just laugh and cause trouble all night long. So it's a little bit harder right now to get them to go to sleep. But once they're out, they're out. And the baby she's just now getting on a good schedule. So I don't know. I'd like to think I've trained my body to deal with not sleeping at all, but I don't think that's working out too well.
Yeah, and that, it's difficult for us sometimes to line up schedules for interviews, just because we have to put our kids down, and I'll tell you, my girls are 4.5, and it probably isn't going to get any easier, because I'll put them down and go up a half an hour later, and they're singing, or one's telling the other one that they're wrong about something, and you could just hear them through the door. It's pretty funny, but that's life's pleasures there. So they're only little for a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. No, I thought it was only going to get easier. Thanks for the encouragement.
It gets more fun.
Nice work, then. Well, let's shift gears a little bit here off of everyone's families and kids, and talk a little bit about Gunner Kennels, and kind of we like to highlight companies that have unique stories and kind of fit unique niches within the market. And I definitely think that your story kind of fits one of those, and we were kind of shooting the breeze a little bit here before we got recording, and guys can find a little bit about your story on your website and that kind of stuff. But I did wonder to myself when I first heard about Gunner Kennels, I'm like, where does Gunner come from? Is that like, I thought it was like, maybe that's like the guy that owns a company's name, or maybe it's completely fictitious. But it, as it turns out, as many might not know, Gunner does have a real significant meaning in the, sort of the foundation of the company. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and kind of, sort of how you got started and what was kind of the motivations in that process?
Sure. So a little caveat, if I get off topic or something, just interrupt me. But no, Gunner is my almost 10-year-old British lab. He's laying down right beside me down in my shop. So I'm from Nashville originally. I went to Ole Miss mainly for I went down there once for a wedding when I was younger, and saw the outdoors and wildlife opportunity. Went down there and was in the business program, but was also in a wildlife program where, we were hunting and fishing every day, at least once or twice a day. And when it came time to graduate, I didn't know what I was going to do. Knew I wanted to do something in business, but didn't have a clue. So I started an advertising company there in Oxford, Mississippi, just so I could stay and hunt and fish as much as possible. I bought Gunner my junior year of college. I'd always grown up with chocolate labs, but never had a hunting dog that I trained myself and actually hunted with. So I was finishing up school. I had a ton of time to train him and work with him, and I just lucked out. Gunner is just a very, very smart dog, but when it comes down to it, it's the drive. He's got more drive than any dog I've ever seen, and any mistakes, any flaws that he has is just my own fault from not knowing any better on how to train a dog. But I think it was 2011, I believe, that I was duck hunting every day in the Mississippi Delta, and I had a $60 Remington plastic crate, and I'm somewhat handy. I can build a little bit of everything. Nothing, kind of a jack of all trades. Nothing great. Kind of can do a little bit of everything. And I remember thinking to myself, I was on the way to a hunt in Charleston, Mississippi, and it's early in the morning. Was kind of in a rush and took a hard turn, and the crate rolled over in the back of the truck. And when I got to the blind or where we're about to go, I thought, man, something's got to be done better. Somebody's got to make the best of the best dog kennel, something that's safe, something that's got good features for myself, the sportsman, like a drain plug to drain it out with, actual tie-down pins to strap it down to the back of your vehicle, handles to carry with, and the list goes on. And I think it was that morning where I kind of convinced myself, well, the advertising gig, that was going fine, but I didn't like advertising, and I knew that wasn't going to last for forever. But I convinced myself somebody needs to make the Yeti coolers of dog kennels. And so I thought about it for a little bit longer. I ended up selling that advertising company, moving back to Nashville, getting married, and went all in. I mean, took the money that I made from selling my advertising company to put into the designs and a whole plan to get this company going. I just, the whole goal was I want to make the best plastic travel crate in the world. And I didn't really know, I'd done a little bit of market research, but everybody I talked to, was like, oh, great idea, Addison. The dog kennel. Nobody's ever thought of that before. And the only person that actually supported this was my wife, Emily. I mean, from the first day I told her about it, she's like, I can see it. I can already see it. Like, I can already see our whole lives planned out. And she's been the only one that has, no matter what, 100%, startup businesses have a lot of ups and downs, and she's always been very even keeled and very positive about everything. But, I just figured I want to build Gunner a crate, that I'd be comfortable with him traveling in. And I'm going to assume that there's going to be a couple other guys out there like me. And, things have kind of gone in our favor, and we haven't been along for more than about 3 years, and it's been going well.
It's funny. As you're telling that story, I got to thinking, okay, so you sell your business and you move back to Nashville and you get married. And I can imagine when you talk to your wife's old man and ask for her hand in marriage, and he's like, so what are your plans here? And, well, I'm starting this dog kennel thing. It's probably like, yeah, like you said, yeah, no one's thought of that before. And yet, it's awesome to hear stories about where, the one person that absolutely matters, and really the only one that matters as far as your support network, your wife, was behind you all the way with that. So that's just awesome to hear. And, it's no wonder that, companies like yours are successful, because if you don't have that strong foundation at the beginning and the support of the people that are closest to you that matter the most, you're kind of dead in the water probably before you even get started. So it's no surprise that you guys have had the success that you've had hearing you tell that story.
Sure. I think it's also a little bit of blind luck or dumb luck or whatever you want to call it. I think that I was just dumb enough to not, consider all of the risks that I was putting my family through. But we were fortunate enough to just put it all out there and work our tails off and starting to make it work.
I'm kind of interested on, maybe not the entire process, but maybe the timetable of, by the time you had this idea, you knew what it should entail, but from, maybe your first sketch or whatnot, how long did it take until you had your first kennel that you could actually hold on to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, from the concept of I want to make the best crate. Well, what's that mean? That means the safest. That means best looking. That means all these features that I've been wanting out of a dog kennel. From that idea, and then actually pulling the trigger and going, it probably was, let's see, I had to, when we got married, no bank would loan me any money to buy a house because they don't like entrepreneurs. So I had to go get a real job, and I was a technical recruiter, and that means I'm hiring a bunch of computer guys that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I had to get a steady job for 3 months, and pretty much right at 90 days, the bank called and said, you've got the loan, you can move into your house. I quit my job that day and said, I'm full on Gunner Kennels. And it took 3 or 4 months of just doing odd jobs. I mean, I can do some plumbing and electrical and anything else, landscaping, anything just to pay the bills. But to get the actual company going, where we were out, I went and raised some money in a couple months, and then pulling the trigger on tooling and everything. I mean, talking about just the design, I didn't know. I knew I wanted to have a good looking, safe, secure crate, with all these features, but I couldn't tell you what I wanted it to look like. And that process took about a year and a half, just different sketches, different versions, and finally go, oh, yeah, I like that kind of design. I like that kind of shape. Let's go down that route. And then it takes a few more months. Well, I kind of like this, kind of like that. And it just kind of evolved over time. And I mean, even to where I thought it was perfect, 100% guaranteed it's going to be the safest crate out there, blah, blah, blah. You know, we pulled the trigger on tooling. We start manufacturing, and then I go, before we wanted to launch, I wanted to do some crash testing with what they call dummy dogs, just like a crash test dummy, but it's actually a dog, through the Center for Pet Safety and an independent research firm. We went and ran some crash tests, and I saw there were some features on our kennel that weren't perfect. I mean, the tie-down pins, we had one pin bend out of shape a little bit, and so I wanted to fix that. We had to up everything up to half-inch stainless steel tie-down pins. We had our original door that was designed that I thought was just the best door ever. You know, the dummy dog blew right through the door. And so we had to do a complete overhaul on the door and make sure that it was safe. And we had to do another almost a dozen crash tests until we finally figured out how to keep the door secured in the event of a accident. But I mean, it took a long time, and then it took a lot more time and money than anticipated just to get it ready to deliver to customers. It's probably a long-winded answer, but basically probably took 3 times longer and 3 times as much money as anticipated, as any business could probably tell you.
So I can't help but wonder, during that time, you know, and you said, you know, you thought this door was like the Cadillac of doors, and then it fails under your testing. You know, like at any point in that, I mean, I just have to imagine it's human nature. A human at any point in that where you like, man, maybe I've made a mistake here. Maybe I've, you know, bit off more than I can chew, or maybe this isn't as, you know, what I thought it was going to be, you know, when you're talking at longer timelines than you anticipated, more money than you anticipated, things like that. I mean, how does it feel as you're going through that to kind of deal with those adversities, like throughout that process?
Yeah, I don't, the funny thing is, I don't think I've ever thought, well, shoot, you know, I guess this was a bad idea. I mean, my dad taught me this, right at the beginning, I guess. I mean, he's an entrepreneur. He started his own company, 35 years ago. And you know, I just always wanted to be like him. I wanted to start my own company and do my own thing. And I remember just, you know, at the very beginning, there were some huge walls that I would think that most people that aren't as dumb as me would have considered all the options, considered all the pros and cons, and fought. And I think that I was just, you know, blind or dumb or whatever, where I just was, dang it, I'm going to do this. He said, look, you're going to, you know, every day or every week, you're going to have some huge wall that you're going to think, I can't go on any further. This company's done. You know, and he taught me, you know, the difference of somebody with an idea and someone that makes a successful company is you've got to figure out a way to get through that wall, whether it's climb over it, you know, go to the side of it, go underneath it, or just bust through that dang thing. You got to figure out a way to get to the next wall. And it's never going to stop. There's always going to be some big walls that that you're going to think, this is a major, major problem, and you just got to figure out a way to get through it. So, I mean, I think that I'm lucky enough that I've never actually thought, well, this is a deal breaker, you know, I'm in too deep, we're done, or something like that. But I honestly, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I think it's just I was blind enough to the actual facts of the risk we were taking just to keep on pushing and keep on going, because I wanted to make Gunner a good dog.
You know, I really enjoy our episodes like this and talking to guys like you, because one, I mean, you know, just listening to how you started and, you know, taking a leap of faith and just the size of the cojones you have to have faith in yourself to make it work is really inspirational, and it always makes me think of those big posters on the wall, get knocked down nine times, stand up 10 or something like that. But it's one thing to read those, but it's another thing to live by words like that. And it's just something that I really, really enjoy. And you brought up briefly, the crash test and all the testing that you did on it. And I really feel like you need to talk about that more. And just for, some of the stats that you guys have up on your website, 85% of products fail the crash test by the standards set by Center of Pet Safety. And, since I got my Gunner and really felt the quality of it, and, whatever I want to do, stand on it, jump on it, whatever it may be, like, the thing does not budge. It's an absolute tank. So maybe speak to those tests. And, I really enjoy quality gear, and I think I got that from my father-in-law, more of the, just cry that initial time, cry once, buy once type mentality. But it really is, when you go through a store and you think about your dog traveling in the back of your truck and rolling over or something like that, and you look at some of the products compared to a Gunner, it really is night and day. So maybe if you could talk about, just what the Gunner can hold up to, I think that's something that is pretty special.
Yeah, and if I talk about any testing that I do, just know there's no actual real dog that was in there. I think that I'm kind of the same way as you, where I've always had an appreciation for any saltwater boat or any marine application where something's built to last. If it's built to stand up to saltwater, that it's going to last, for most other applications. When I say the best, or even just when we're talking about the crash test, the whole purpose was something that can last. And we've put a lot of money into actual independent research. So like crash testing, we put it in a giant vise just to see how much pressure it could hold. And we broke the machine 3 different times at 4,000 pounds. So we actually don't know how much pressure the actual kennel can take. I've got some pictures of a buddy of mine that's got an old Chevy Blazer, like the big Chevy Blazers, up on top of 4 kennels. I've tried to get it underneath my 2500 Chevy Diesel a couple times, but haven't been able to have the right equipment to put it on. But we don't know how much pressure it can actually take. So we've done crash testing. We've done tests with a giant vise. We've also dropped these huge 630-pound sled weight from, I forget what it is, it's something at least 6 foot high, just to see kind of the impact it can take. And I think there's videos of all that stuff out there. But we've also done some, what I'd like to call redneck testing, just to see what it can put up with. I mean, I've got a buddy, we go hunt at their farm all the time, about an hour from here in Nashville, and we threw the kennel off of it was over 200-foot cliff where it's hitting trees and rocks the entire way down. We did it to the same kennel 3 times. Matter of fact, that kennel, Gunner's laying right beside that kennel right now. It's still pretty much brand new. It's got some scuffs and scratches, but we dropped the same kennel off this cliff 2 or 3 times just to see what would happen. And my brother-in-law actually still uses that kennel all the time. But we've also, I've been at the duck camp in Arkansas and shot a AR-15 at it, and that didn't go so well. Turns out AR-15 will go through the whole kennel. But, you shoot it with a shotgun from 7 steps away, and not one pellet has been, penetrated both layers of the plastic. And so anything I think that, maybe would be a concern, or just to get a cool idea of what it can take, we've at least tried. And, to my surprise, it's held up to everything but AR-15, I guess.
I think that's pretty cool because, if you do have you're talking about you're putting a quack rack on, and, if you have a kennel up on your quack rack and you guys are getting set up for a hunt and there's an accidental discharge or something, it's good to know that, it's can withstand a shotgun blast, because that's, a lot of our audience is, well, it's all waterfowl hunters, but that might be something that a straight accident and your pet is safe in there.
Yeah. And even more so, I mean, this is something that I never really considered when I started this. I just wanted to build Gunner a crate that I was confident while I was got, that I did everything I could to give them the best chance of survival. But we've had 6 or 7 guys call us up and say, man, I was in Junkyard, Arkansas, on the way to a hunt, at a 4-way where they didn't have a stop sign or whatever. And, a big truck didn't stop and just T-boned them. And a truck would T-bone the specific guy I'm talking about. The truck T-boned the truck he was in, and the first port of impact was the truck bed. And the first thing that the dog kennel was up against was that bed rail. So, I mean, literally, this truck went full speed at one of our kennels with this guy's dog in it. And, the first time you hear that, I was like, oh my gosh, is the dog okay? And he kind of laughed and said, that afternoon, my dog retrieved 6-man limit, or, one shy of a 6-man limit or something like that. And it just puts chills down your body to think that something that I was just trying to do for my dog Gunner has actually saved dogs' lives. And we've got a few stories like that are really, really cool to hear, even without dog. I mean, I saw a rollover incident from a 2500 Chevy down in Georgia. They didn't have a dog in their kennel, but they had a Gunner kennel. They swerved to miss a deer, and I mean, the entire cab was crushed in to where I thought that the passengers were all dead, and the Gunner kennel in the back, it was warped a little bit, but I mean, it stood up better than the dang cab. I mean, thank goodness there wasn't a dog in there, but if you were going to be in an accident like that, I'd feel much better knowing that my dog was in a kennel like that. So that's my sales pitch for the night. But it is really cool to hear about stories like that you're actually making a difference in people's lives and helping save their family members. That's, I think if it all boils down, that's kind of the most rewarding part about it.
Yeah, and I think it's it's also sort of a shift a little bit maybe in the industry and waterfowl hunters in general, because more and more it seems like people are again, and then maybe this is just because the internet has evolved and things, and you can see it more, but growing up as a primarily deer and turkey hunter and kind of getting into waterfowl a little bit later and sort of on my own and having never really owned my own gun dog, it seems like more now than maybe even 5 years ago, you're seeing more guys spending more time training, researching, looking for, asking questions online, pursuing, their extension of the waterfowl season is working with their dog through the off season. And one thing that kind of struck me when I was, researching your company and based on some other episodes that we had, we talk a lot about hunters and preserving our safety when we're in the field, or we're, if the weather's too bad, or have a first aid kit, or, always have a plan or whatever. But rarely, other than maybe just like some first aid to treat your dog in the field, do you hear people other than like the Barton Ramseys of the world and guys like that who live this stuff. Rarely do you hear them include their dog in that discussion as far as, the safety plan. A lot of guys I know just throw the dog in the cab of the truck to and from, no big deal. That's kind of how they do it or whatever. So it's interesting to see more people sort of embrace the fact that, the safety of their dog is important. And products like Gunner Kennels are there to, sort of fit that need.
Yeah. And when I came up with this idea, Gunner was in a, cheap flimsy plastic crate. And once I realized what, the next best option from a $60 crate was a $2,000 aluminum box that takes up the whole bed of your truck. And I didn't have the money, or I'm a big deer hunter and I didn't want to take up the whole bed of my truck too. And, once I had that idea, I stopped using dog crates altogether because I realized, I'd almost rather him fly out of the back of the truck versus be captured in this little flimsy deal and it break apart and potentially stab him or something. I mean, all that aside, from the time I first saw our first crash test, it's a 30 mile an hour vehicle running into an immovable object is the best way to describe it. And, I started wearing my seatbelt a lot more, but when I saw that and saw how our crate held up after we finally, finished all the designs. I mean, Gunner has never ridden inside of my truck ever since. I have guys that I don't really say anything, but they'll say, "Oh yeah, well, I love my dog so much he rides in front seat," or my dog doesn't deserve to ride in the back of the truck, and I keep my mouth shut. But I mean, from what I've seen, for me, like for Gunner, he's never riding in anything but a Gunner kennel, because I've seen those crash tests, and I can just drive confidently knowing I've done everything I can to give him his best shot. But yeah, I mean, the other nice part about that is I don't have dog hair and mud all in my truck from him running around on the inside of it. But that's kind of where I was going with that, was, that's probably how most guys do, especially when it gets really cold. They're going to put them on the inside of the truck, which, if you're talking sub-zero temperatures, that's a different discussion. But
yeah, I'm just a little curious. My wife's cousin she does the whole show dog thing, and I saw that just from your guys' Instagram feed, I think Jake is up in St. Louis with some law enforcement dogs and stuff like that. And I actually talked to Jill, my wife's cousin, and asked her, what kind of kennels are you using? And Gunner was definitely brought up into the conversation, and a want that they have. And I know, a lot of the show people have their, custom crates that they build into the back of their vehicles and whatnot, but it's definitely hitting that market as well. And I was just kind of wondering, are you guys more into the hunting dogs? Are you more in law enforcement? Do you have police departments using the kennels? How far is your reach right now, and do you have any target markets for Gunner?
Yeah, so sit down and take a breather. This will take a minute, but that's a great question. So I when I was coming up with this idea, I thought, oh man, there's a great potential here for the hunting dog. That's what I need it for. But there's also these $60,000 to $70,000, military and police dogs running around traveling in a $60 crate. And there's also the agility and show dog world, and these guys, those people are crazy about the dogs. And then there's just the regular family pets. So, I want to stay true to our brand and ourselves, in that, Gunner is a sporting dog. So our brand is, mostly centered around sporting dogs, but happened a lot sooner than I planned. But we've got kennels in just about every special forces unit in the world. I mean, we've sent them from everywhere, from Australia to Norway to Dubai to Argentina to, everywhere, just on government contract stuff or any type of one-off special forces deal. And that's really cool to know that our kennels are being used by the best dogs in the world. I mean, we've got them in the Pentagon, we've got them on the Border Patrol, we've got them in a lot of different, local law enforcement, SWAT team type stuff. But to know that the best dogs in the world, that these dogs are actually used to save people's lives, are being transported in our kennels, that's really cool. And that happened a lot sooner. I thought we were going to have to approach that market really hard. And it kind of came naturally. We were just always so busy with our own fulfilling orders, and just from that sporting dog world, that the military and police dog world, kind of that stuff came naturally. But I mean, we are now that we're direct to consumer, it's kind of simple now. I want to make the best products possible for all things dog. So we started off with the crate. We've got a lot of cool products that I've been working really hard on, and it kind of all follows the same motif of, okay, what's your product? The dog kennel. Well, they're all junk. They're all absolute junk. Let's make the best possible product or dog kennel that we can imagine. And now it's kind of going from, well, what else do we use in the sporting dog world? Or what else do we use in the dog ownership world? And let's make it the best absolute possible product that we can possibly make. And that's what we're trying to shift into, is not necessarily just 100%, duck killing dog crate company. But, my dog Gunner, he's he's a jam up duck dog, but he's a duck dog like now, maybe if we're lucky, 20 days a year. You know, the rest of the time he's my family dog. And so trying to cater to a little bit of everybody, but just altogether build the best products for your dog. You know, we're trying to stay as American made as we can. And we're able to do that now going to direct to consumer. But I'm just a big fan of stuff that lasts. And, I think that others would appreciate the quality that we're trying to, you know, put into product.
Yeah, you just you hit on a couple times there the fact that, you know, recently you guys have gone direct to consumer, and you know, we'd like you, if you would, to talk a little bit about that. You know, you mentioned some of the benefits of it. It allows you to stay American made, things of that nature. But, you know, as we were kind of chatting a little bit before this, I really do believe that this is you know, a thing that's going to be very, you know, more common moving forward. You know, we've seen some other companies doing the same thing. And I'm curious to, you know, to hear your perspective on that style of business, and kind of, you know, educate our listener base a little bit as to why that's an important decision for your company, and, you know, what it allows you to do kind of moving forward.
Yeah. So first things first, I've kind of built this company backwards because I didn't know any better. So the fact that we were so obsessed with quality and everything, and American made, you know, as much as we possibly can be, our costs are extremely high versus 99% of the products out there, just from your iPhone to any clothing, anything you touch in your daily life, that's most likely not made in America. And there's a huge markup from manufacturer to distributor to wholesaler to retailer. And we just don't have those margins. I mean, our kennels are made up in Iowa and Erie, Pennsylvania, and we ship them down to Nashville, and we ship everything out. And our costs are just so high. You know, I'm not trying to knock any of our dealers, you know, part of that wholesale network, but they weren't making a bunch of money off of us. We weren't making a bunch of money off of them. Just, we needed them for marketing, and it was definitely good. But, you know, about a year ago, it hit me. Matter of fact, here's a funny story. I was at work. We were just on fire. You know, every day we're on fire. There's always something big, and we're pretty scatterbrained. But, I mean, I came up with, that morning, I thought, man, we've got to go direct to consumer. We're not making enough money off these wholesale accounts. You know, they're taking too long to pay us. They're explaining the wrong message to their customer. We don't get to own the whole experience. We can't have that customer from start to finish, giving them the best possible experience. Just all day, I was going through my head going, man, we've got to go direct. We've got to go direct. And I come home. I didn't talk to Emily, my wife, all day long. I come home, and the first thing she says to me is, she goes, you know, I've been thinking about this all day long, and I think it's time for you to go direct. It's like, did I talk to you earlier today or something? And she's like, no, why? I was like, this is literally all I've been thinking about all day long. And she was like, well, there's your sign. I mean, right. I mean, the cool thing is, I think we're far enough along to do that. Not us as a company, but as in technology. Everybody uses their phone and buys things off of Amazon. But I mean, you know, to be able to provide the customer with the story and the whole story, and if you have a problem, you contact us. You know, it always killed me when we'd hear from one of our dealers that this customer had this issue with this kennel. You know, we're not perfect. There's issues with parts of the kennel, and we know we're not perfect. We try to make it right. But to hear what they would tell that customer, that they would have to, you know, jump through all these hoops to potentially get, you know, credit for their store or something, where, you know, you call us, we make it right away. I mean, to be able to take any customer's concerns or warranty issues down the line, because lifetime warranty, and fix it on the spot, that's a big deal. Because when you talk about what I've wanted to do from the start is make the best dog crate in the world, that includes customer service. That includes every part of that experience. And so the whole direct consumer thing, it's great. I mean, we essentially could slow down our quantities and continue to improve our margins. Thankfully, it hadn't gone that way in terms of quantities. We really haven't skipped a beat in terms of quantities after, you know, cutting ties with the dealers. But it was a very, very scary move. I mean, I worked on it for about 6 months to actually be able to do it because it's very unknown. Are our dealers going to sell all of their inventory at a huge discount, all timing up to May, June, July of a very, slow point for the dog kennel market, at least in our experience. I was, very worried that sales were just going to stop. All the while trying to ramp up our marketing and give a better experience for our customers while we're spending, 10 times more money on marketing than we were before that. And so, a lot of risk involved. I mean, I was very, for some reason at ease with that decision, and we're 64 days into it right now, and it's gone better than planned. So, I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, I think it's a huge benefit, like you said, for someone to call and say, I have an issue with my door or the handle or something, and you guys can ship one out before you even receive the broken piece in, and instead of waiting. And I think that's big, especially if guys are using that on their hunting rig or whatever it may be. So, definitely a big benefit there. I just wonder, I was down there in May. You weren't around, but Jake showed me around. And is it, I guess, shipping from your end? Is there a big adjustment there? Instead of shipping, say 100 kennels to one store, now the direct consumer, is that more difficult, or is that kind of streamlined? How does that affect you?
Oh, it's better. I mean, we've been back ordered since we started, and we'd have these huge dealer orders that we'd have to delay for 20 to 30 days because we couldn't fulfill them. And now we're able to get caught up. And I mean, when the order comes in within 5 minutes, we're most likely putting it together and shipping it out. The other part is, most of the time we would put the bill on freight going to these dealers and charge them later. So we're not carrying that burden of that freight cost until they decide to pay us. I mean, it's yes, there was some comfort in knowing that we've got X amount of POs scheduled for next month versus now it's like, what's tomorrow going to do? And there's been, last Monday was one of our best days, and then Tuesday was one of our worst days. And that's something that I feel like that's why we're trying to tell that story for our own podcast. It's just telling our experience for how it's going, because it's not like you've got, great, and then a decent day. I mean, there's some great days, some bad days, and some great days, and it's really interesting right now because we can pivot for our marketing and we can always look into, okay, what's working, what's not working. We're not really constrained by the dealers now to where we're about to launch I guess you heard here, but we're about to launch a lot of new colors, a lot of new colored accessories. And before that, but when we had dealers, we were going to have to stock huge amounts of inventory so that they could participate in those sales of, say, a new colored kennel, a new product. And now, if we want to, we can order the minimum quantity of a new colored kennel. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we go to a different color. I mean, we have a lot more freedom in our branding and our marketing to do whatever we want. And I don't want to sound like we're dogging any of the dealers, because we, I appreciate everything that they've done for us, but it is a really cool business model to adapt to, and everybody's time got cut in half in terms of dealing with dealers from start to finish. So it's just better to connect with the end consumer directly. That's the whole deal, is direct to consumer, versus say we're at Academy Sports, which we never were, but say we're at Academy Sports, you don't know what that salesperson or customer service person at Academy Sports was telling that customer about our Gunner Kennel, versus they call us. We can tell the whole story. We don't have to wonder how many games of telephone we've been playing to the end consumer on what story they've heard and any warranty or any other type of concerns or issues that they have.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we've talked a lot about on our show, is that when people feel like they can connect with a company and it's not just a massive conglomerate, but it's, when you call, someone picks up the phone. If you have an issue, you talk to somebody and they help you work through that. I think that's really important. And that's something that's kind of unique to, smaller niches, like, as I like to think about it, as far as, duck hunters and, the outdoor industry in general and that kind of stuff. So I do think that, companies are going to shift to this model as they see, brick and mortar stores are having harder and harder time surviving, thanks to Amazon and Walmart online and all of these things. So, you're seeing them being squeezed, and that gets pushed down. And, when you have companies like yourself that don't cut corners on costs, they feel that. And I was listening to, it's funny because I was just listening to the Kufaru cast podcast with Aaron Snyder, and he was talking to the guy from Iron Will broadheads or whatever, but he was talking about why his broadheads for $3 are $100, and you can buy Muzzies or something else at Walmart for $3 for like $25. And he talked elaborately about the testing and the development and the stuff that went into the develop of that product. And he's like, yeah, you can buy 3 for $25 and throw them away after you shoot them through a deer, or you can buy these ones and never have to buy another broadhead again. And you can sharpen these. Yeah. So it's that mentality that companies are starting to take. It's like, well, instead of, selling you a piece of crap that you're going to replace in 2 years, 5 years, one use, whatever your product is, I'm going to build you something that's going to last a lifetime that you can bet your bottom dollar on that, like, when it comes time to need it, it's going to be there for you. And I think more companies are taking that approach, and I can see them kind of moving to the same model that you're talking about for the exact reasons that you described. I mean, it gives you more flexibility, and it gives you the opportunity to interface directly with your customer base, which is critical.
Yeah, I think that these days people are expecting, and rightfully so, just a good customer experience. And at the end of the day, going direct to consumer lets us, we've got a lot of things in the works in terms of content, media, and videos, and you name it. I want to be able to connect that lifestyle with people. I mean, it's the customer experience that I think that we're after providing, and customers are after quality products that I feel like are worth, putting Gunner's name on it, hoping that other people feel the same way about it.
Yeah, and I think, even on the flip side with social media, how good it can be, it's kind of out of your hands when you have your product in so many stores that if something bad does happen and you aren't able to fix it right away, then, some bad talk gets out, and that's probably harder to stop than good talk is to start. So, I think it all gets ironed out, and, for you guys to be able to be creative, like you said, with sales or, new product pushes, I think it's super cool and probably stressful, but fun to be in your office, during that whole transition. But, I'm sitting here thinking the whole time, I guess we can move on to a little bit of a different subject, but you were saying, you're down at Ole Miss and doing a lot of hunting, but grew up in Nashville, and I'm just kind of thinking, you're talking about Mississippi quite a bit, and I just want to know what the hunting is like down there. And were you onto ducks? Were you onto specs, or what? What were you into down there?
Mainly ducks and everything else. I mean, it was we were running trot lines every day in the spring, and we were duck and deer hunting whenever the season was open. I mean, we had deer stands, I think, somewhere between 1.5 and 2 miles from campus at Ole Miss. It's just such a good area, especially for someone coming from Nashville, that I feel like, most people here don't hunt as much, or at least not talked about as much. We moved down to North Mississippi where everybody does it, and I get buddied up with my best friends now to this day I talk to my buddies from college every single day, and we were hunting, we're hunting and or fishing once or twice a day. So the opportunities there is just, I don't know.
So what was the academics like at Ole Miss? Did you do any studying, or were you hunting and fishing all the time?
No, I was never the A+ student. As you can imagine, I remember calling my mom freshman year, telling her that I passed, all my classes, and she said, "Thank God." I was honestly worried that you're even still in school. Every time I talk to you, you're out hunting and fishing. So I wasn't that great at the whole class part, and mainly concentrated in other parts of college life, but picked up some things here and there. I think that whole starting advertising business before that really helped. That was my quote unquote grad school, but no, there wasn't a whole lot of attention to it. I guess I don't know. I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything. I didn't make great grades, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time studying either.
So if you had the choice to hunt in Mississippi or Tennessee, where would you go if you had one trip to go on?
What kind of hunting are we talking?
We're talking duck hunting here.
Duck hunting, Mississippi, and that may or may not. To me, it's Mississippi all day. But I grew up in Middle Tennessee. Jake, last duck season, he's from Arkansas. He's got a boat. He works for us, does our marketing. Last duck season, said, "Where can I go duck hunting around here?" I said, "Well, I wrestled in high school, and I didn't really go duck hunting around Middle Tennessee, so I've never really known what to do. I always just go to Arkansas, Mississippi, or Louisiana." I said, "Good luck if you want to go to Old Hickory." And the next day, he shot his limit of good ducks too out at Old Hickory. He's like, "It's not that bad here. You might ought to do it every once in a while." So for me, I feel like you've got to drive at least 6 hours to go get a good duck hunt in. But turns out that we've actually got them in Middle Tennessee. I just never knew about them growing up.
Yeah, you mentioned you're a big duck or a big deer hunter as well. How do you split your time? Is it like a 50-50 pursuit? Like, are you, as passionate about deer hunting as you are duck hunting, or kind of, where does the allegiance lie there in respect to your deer hunting?
Yeah. Growing up, it was whatever's in season. If it's dove season, I'm the happiest dove hunter, around. If it's bow season, bow hunting is my jam. If it's the summertime, I'm deep sea fishing. It's literally whatever's in season, I'm all about. And then as I got older and I trained Gunner, my first duck dog, it was whatever I can do with Gunner. He's done some upland hunts. He's done some tons of dove hunts and mostly waterfowl hunts. And so that has turned into my favorite, where last year, I guess put in perspective, my freshman and sophomore year of college, we were shooting between 20 and 30 deer a year, doe management type stuff. And also we needed food. But last year, I think I shot, I don't know if I shot a buck, maybe just like one or two doe. So, it's gone way down. If, with 3 kids and starting a business, if I've got to choose where I'm going to spend my time, I'm going to take Gunner with me and go duck hunt. So right now it's all, anything I can do with Gunner, and it probably will stay that way. Even with our next dog, I've bred Gunner, and I've got his pup named Bullet that we'll be hunting with a little bit more this year.
And you said Gunner, he's 10 now?
He turns 10 in October, and I run him every night. He's still in pretty good shape. He's been through the ringer, just jumping up and down the back of the truck his whole life. So, yesterday I think we ran a mile and a half or 2 miles, and today he was limping a little bit, but I've got him on some good medicine. And, by the end of the day, he's not limping and ready to do it again, but I'm just trying to get him in shape for dove season this year.
Nice. Yeah, Kimber, she turned 9 in May, and she's still getting after it. She doesn't have any of the limps or, sore bones yet, but, like you, it's, you enjoy the days that you have with them, and definitely I'm in the same boat. If I'm going out, she's going out, and I rarely, unless it's not safe, leave her at home. So, same kind of deal, but I don't have a puppy. Well, my father-in-law has a Southern Oak Kennel pup that she'll be joining ranks here shortly, I believe.
We had I thought that Gunner's last year was going to be last duck season, and Skip Knowles from Wildfowl and Lee Chose came down to Honey Break in Louisiana last year. We were going to do a story on Gunner's last hunt. I honestly thought, with the way that he was acting, it was going to be his last hunt. I couldn't hunt him 2 days in a row anymore. I couldn't hunt him in ice. And I found this medicine, and my vet, suggested it's called Adequan, where it's like a shot. you give him every 20 days or something like that, then, I mean, he shed off like 2 or 3 years. And he hunted hard all through last year. This year will probably be his last year for at least the hardcore stuff. But that medicine, I'll tell you what, I mean, it's amazing. And actually, a picture Lee Chose took while Skip was down there is on the cover of the Wildfowl magazine. This whatever came out with a week ago. It doesn't say like this is Gunner from Gunner Kennels, but that is a picture from Gunner and I at Honey Break.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh man,
yeah, I
have to check that out.
Yeah, I got that. Check that out. I wanted to visit something else that you mentioned a little while ago, and you talked about kind of recording your own podcast and telling the story. So, we get all the time people, looking for new podcasts and things like that, and they're getting on us because we don't do more frequently than once a week. But talk a little bit about that project and kind of when people might be able to check that out.
Yeah, so number one, I love y'all's podcast, and I think that y'all are doing an incredible job. To do it weekly is a feat, especially when you got guys like me flaking out at the last minute. I think 2 weeks ago. It takes a lot more time and energy than you would think. So I think we've recorded like 6 or 7 episodes in the last 9 or 10 weeks. We just get busy, and I think we're going to try to record about 10. Kind of just testing the waters on it. We're just trying to tell our story of how we started. Probably you can sum up our entire podcast of everything we just talked about today. But, for anybody that wants to listen, that's what we're doing. Is just kind of telling our story, and then also just the current story of going direct, and also getting some cool guys on the show. I mean, just like the guys that y'all are getting on y'all's show and just hearing their story. There's not a huge, one subject theme going the whole way through. I think we're just kind of doing it and seeing if we can connect with people. I think it's a little bit entrepreneur minded. It's not necessarily just 100% hardcore waterfowl type feel, but at the end of the day, if you have a relationship with your dog, it could be something you'd enjoy listening to.
And what was the name of that?
So the name of it is Inside Gunner's Kennel, and I think we got a long day when we thought about that. I was kind of thinking, I think there's a movie, I hadn't even seen it, but I just remember seeing the movie cover. I think it's called Being John Malkovich or something. It's like an opening into his mind or something like that. I was just joking with my buddy that we're recording with. I was like, what about Inside Gunner's Kennel, like inside my story or whatever? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of how we operated. One person says let's do it, we'll go for it. But the name might change over time before release, which it should release this fall. We'll see how that goes. So
that's funny. Well, you should have, you were talking about quality and stuff, but being in Nashville, are you guys going to a recording studio? Are you doing it in the office? How are you rolling there?
Yeah, I got a buddy that I've known. I mean, we were in diapers together, and his family is just a gigantic music family, and we're going to his buddy's, our producer's music studio where we record. I mean, really, top-notch gear and all that. I know nothing about all that, but yeah, I mean, it's Emily, my wife. She works, for Gunner Kennels, and so she comes and makes sure that I stay level-headed and step in every once in a while. And but it's pretty cool. I've never experienced anything like it, but it's, I could care. I'm sure I'm of the mindset that people would care less to hear what I've got to say, but everybody on our team's like, you got to do this podcast to connect with people and just tell your story and where you're at. And so I think that's where we're going with it. If anybody wants to listen, great. If anybody doesn't want to listen, even better. I can tell them we can stop recording. Now, guys like y'all got interesting stuff to say. I just think that our stuff's not that.
Just connecting with your base there, and you also have a Facebook group, which is the Discussion Den, right? GK Discussion Den, and that's that's really cool too, because it's probably saved a lot of calls into your office, because a lot of people asking, just size recommendations for their pet, and it might be a puppy, it might be a full-grown dog, but a lot of people chime in on there, and it's a nice group to be part of. It's really just easy flowing and nice talking to other dog owners.
Yeah, that was an idea from Jake, our marketing guy, and Emily, my wife, that they put together, and to be honest, I don't know much about it. I don't have any social media accounts or anything. I don't have any of that on my phone. So every once in a while they'll go, "Oh yeah, the discussion is going well." I'm like, "All right, great." I don't really know what that means right now, but they do say that it's working well, and it's really cool to be able to interact with anybody that's got any questions, potential customers or current customers that have a problem. I'm glad that we're able to connect with them on that level. I'd be lying if I've seen that page more than twice. It's retarded, but I've heard that it's going well.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. Definitely a good one. And social media, when it's not always, nice to get in different pages, but, it's a lot of quality people in there. So good stuff all around.
Yeah.
Well, we're nearing that magic hour mark where we hate to keep you any longer than that, and we do appreciate you spending some time with us here this evening. Dan, you got anything else you want to run by Addison here before we let him go?
No, I appreciate the time, and looking forward to, you alluded to maybe some new products coming out, so excited to see what you guys, push out here.
Yeah, I can hear screaming girls up in their bedroom, and I can stay for an hour if y'all need me to. No, I really appreciate it, guys. I hope it wasn't boring, but let's try to get a hunt together in the next year or two, and thank y'all very much for y'all time and everything that y'all are doing.
No, we appreciate that. We definitely love to get together for a hunt, and we encourage everybody, to check out GunnerKennels.com, all the stuff you guys got going over there, and we certainly appreciate your support of our show, and look forward to sharing a blind with you one day. So I think that's all we got for this interview, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And again, Addison, appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
All right, there you have it. Thanks for Addison for giving us a few minutes of his time to come on and talk with us on the show. And, of course, Gunner Kennels has been very kind to this program, so we certainly appreciate all of their support, and encourage everyone. Again, if you've seen a Gunner Kennel in person, or compared them to some of the other ones on the market, it's hard to deny that they're not way better than essentially everything out there that I've seen personally. I mean, I can't say that I've seen every kennel, but when you read the reviews about Gunner Kennels and they talk about being just like ridiculously overbuilt and just all this stuff, I mean, it's a tank. Bottom line, that's what it is. And if you're in an accident or something, that your dog's got the best shot in something like that.
So right now I have an intermediate kennel, and I don't plan on using it until hunting season, really, unless I, take Kimber swimming or something like that. But we do a lot of the running in the yard. So Thad, with his Southern Oak Kennels dog, with Boo, he said, "Can I borrow that kennel? Because she's outgrown her little one, and he wants to continue crate training." I said, "Sure." So yesterday, what is today, Tuesday, he came over Monday night, and, he's getting a little older, but he had a little trouble picking it up. And he's like, "Man," he's like, "this thing is pretty intense." And I was like, "Yeah, it'll withstand quite a bit." And so I texted him this morning. I said, "How did she do?" And she had no issue going in there, plenty of room and whatnot. And he's like, "That thing is bomb proof." And, it just absolutely, totally impressed with it. And it really is. It's a great product. And like you said, I thank Addison for coming on, and a really easy interview, just the whole thing. Like I said, just sitting down like you're talking to a buddy. So, a good chat, and and we definitely thank Gunner for the support of the show.
Yep, no doubt. And I think probably one other thing I wanted to mention here before I forget, since last time we recorded, I believe we gave away the Sitka Hudson jacket. Is that correct?
We did. So Nate Carpenter, he is the new owner of a Sitka Hudson jacket, and you want to know the best part about that? He messaged me over Facebook, a direct message, and was cussing me a little bit, and he said, "Look what you just made me do," with a few other words in there, and showed me the receipt of his Sitka waders. So he went all, and he said, I was gonna try and mend up his. He's gonna try and mend up his neoprene for another year, and he said, "You know what? With this jacket, it just made me jump all in, and that is going to be one comfortable dude." So, really cool deal, and I'm excited for him to jump in and see what it's all about.
Yep. And the cool thing about it is too, we're just getting warmed up. We got, the 100th episode is bearing down on us quickly, and I guess it won't be long. We're going to have to let the cat out of the bag a little bit as to what that's going to entail, and I think we need to figure out exactly how we're going to do this. But suffice to say, it'll be pretty exciting. So definitely hang in there and get ready for that. Looking forward to getting that going. And by the time that comes, man, we're going to be talking early goose. Like we're going to be
2 weeks into goose, because that'll be mid-September.
Right. And so at that point we're talking teal, we're getting into it. So it's exciting. I do, even though it's been like just ridiculously hot and humid, I feel season's coming, and it's starting to get, I'm like, if I squint really, really hard, I can see like that light down there at the end of the tunnel, that the season's coming. So definitely getting fired up and looking forward to getting going again. You got anything else you want to hit here before we wrap it up this week?
I just from a social media aspect, I just want to thank the supporters of the show, and thank everyone that, we do, pretty much weekly giveaways. Like I don't think we've ever talked about it on here, but through our listeners group, we give away a lot of stuff, and that was one of the caveats to us going out and getting advertisers and really giving back to our listeners. And the Hudson jacket is tip of the iceberg. And, check us out on Facebook. And yeah, that 100th episode it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun out. Like you said, we need to really nail down everything, all the final details, but, it's going to be worth paying attention to, for sure.
No doubt. So usually the first place we break news like that is over at our Facebook listeners group. So if you're not in there yet, head over that way and request access. We'll get you in, and you will be in the know when it's time for that giveaway, and you will have your opportunities to win. So if you got nothing else, Dan, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this week up. All right, that's going to do it for episode 92 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. Thanks to Addison Edmonds, Gunner Kennels for stopping by and sharing some time with us. Also, thanks to you to Southern Oak Kennels, Gunner Kennels, Dunn Sporting Goods, Camp Chef, Black Rifle Coffee Company, Big Al Silhouette Decoys, and 737 Duck and Goose Calls. Appreciate all the companies and their support of this show, and we thank you all for listening and for supporting the show. So until next week, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.